Our next speaker is Jessi Quizar, and she's the youth organizer for the Youth and Militarism program at the American Friends Service Committee in Denver. She organizes against the poverty draft and recruitment fraud and for youth empowerment and truth in recruitment. She also teaches ethnic studies and sociology at Front Range Community College. So go Jessi!
Hey, how y'all doing? A little shorter than everyone else. Hey, I work at the American Friends Service Committee in the Youth and Militarism program, and like Claire said, we deal a lot with recruitment fraud and try and encourage truth in recruiting and work on the military's access to youth and alternatives to the military for youth. And I want to explain a little, just sort of break down a little bit what we're talking about when we're talking about the poverty draft. It's basically who are fighting these wars. And when we look at the demographics, when we look at where recruiting comes from, for the most part, the recruiters are targeting low-income youth and youth of color. And so how does this happen? Thing one, the military is most present in underfunded schools and uses the fact that these schools lack funding to target their students. They offer resources such as JROTC, which schools facing budget crises often use as an elective or a PE class because they don't have funding for those classes on their own. The military markets their ASVAB test to under-resourced schools as a free career assessment, while in reality it's a military careers aptitude test. This exam winds up giving recruiters student addresses and phone numbers, as well as giving them information to target youth based on their interests and strengths. Again, this tactic winds up zeroing in on youth in schools where there are few resources for real career counseling. So they're targeting underfunded schools. Thing two, the military is specifically targeting people of color. The military has stated that they aim to double the number of Latino youth in the military in the next 7 years. And they're doing this through really heavy recruiting in Spanish and also targeting people's parents, targeting families. And there's been a number of cases where recruiters have been promising things like citizenship, even citizenship for people's entire families, which is a total lie. So doing outright recruitment fraud to encourage folks to enlist. Moreover, a disproportionate number of people of color, Latinos and African Americans are on the front lines, which is where there have been the most casualties, and a disproportionately few number are officers, so there's racial discrimination within the military. The bottom line is that our government is using the bodies of low-income youth, youth of color, and increasingly immigrant youth to fuel this war machine. And the system relies on racial and economic inequality in our schools, in our neighborhoods, and in our communities to continue to have an ample number of new soldiers. This means that to fight against these inequalities, that's to fight against peace, or fight for peace, to fight inequalities within our schools. The good news is that folks are increasingly skeptical of the war, and as a result, recruiters are having a harder and harder time getting willing recruits. And right now, they're running out of troops that are willing to fight. They're just running out, which is why they're doing all these like really incredible enlistment bonuses, throwing all this money at people. It's because they're just running out of people who are willing to sign up, which is phenomenal. But the bad news is that as a result, we're seeing more cases of recruiters pressuring people, deceptive recruiting practices, and outright recruitment fraud. The problem of recruiting fraud, as well as harassment and sexual harassment of new recruits, has become so bad that there's been a congressional committee proposal to put surveillance cameras in recruitment stations. If we invade Iraq, the need for even more soldiers is likely to exacerbate this problem. So some more good news. I'm gonna get up a little bit. In response to this growing crisis, I'm proud to announce that AFSC is starting a national hotline to report recruiter abuse fraud. And look around, all these little buttons right here, they have the number on them, and if you want to go to the AFSC table, which is right over there, grab some, stick them wherever, stick them where you know folks might be vulnerable to recruitment, to make sure that that folks don't have to stand for abuses in recruitment. Folks can just call to add to our data pool if you want. You don't have to leave your name if you don't want to, or if you want to take the issue further, we offer support with filing complaints, with speaking with recruitment folks, speaking with government, school officials, and even talking to the media. We keep track of this data, and we'll use it to argue for putting limits on recruiter access to our community's youth. And back at our table over there, we've got the stickers with the number. So feel free to grab over there, go over there, grab some for yourself, for your friends, for your parents, for students, for anyone you know. And in addition to the hotline, we're making a call out for anyone who attends high school in Colorado or who works in one or who just spends a lot of time in high schools, volunteers, whatever, to be our eyes and ears about recruitment presence in your school. Are recruiters planning an event at your school? Have you noticed that military recruiters have greater access to students than college recruiters? Is your school tracking youth into JROTC or the ASVAB test? We can use that information. If you're a student, if you're a teacher, if you're a counselor, if you're a substitute, if you're anyone who spends any time in schools, go over to the AFSC table right over there and sign up for our Eyes and Ears program. Just sign up for the Youth and Militarism program and help us try and assess what's going on in the schools. It helps us run our campaigns, and it helps us get more connection and get the word out about truth in recruiting. And I would really like to thank you for coming out, and together we can resist predatory recruitment and end this war. Thank you so much.